So we just finished up. Just finished up, a couple weeks left in the semester, and tonight's topic, end of the semester, I started talking to students about preparing their resume for entering entry-level IT positions. So what I wanted them to focus on, it was thinking about how it's very important that after they take any individual class, that they take the time to update their resume around the skills that they acquire in that class, because it's important to document it as they go along. So one question that I did have for them was, why is it important to do this? Why is it important to update your resume after your class? I've had a couple students who knew why. I think I'd given them a little bit of a hint, and that was essentially because you want to add those skills and you don't want to forget why you want to add those skills, because they're important. And so I initiated this conversation with them based on the idea that you're taking an IT course, you're basically preparing for an entry-level position. And I said to them, how many of you are in more than one course? Any of them, of course, are full-time or taking multiple courses. So it's important that they take the time to think about what are the skills from these classes that they are going to apply to their resume. And I think I'm trying to activate them around this idea that this development of skills is progressive, that it is always happening, it's always a work in progress, and that they need to take the time to do this progressively as they take courses. And one of the big items that they need to think about is that with every course, they need to be thinking about the specific skills that they're acquiring with every course. And how are they going to represent these skills on their resume? It's important, I think, for them to think, I'm taking this course, I'm learning this skill, what do I need to write on my resume for this to have an impact when I submit a resume? And the Linux course, it's a Linux administration operating systems course. So the focus is on, I told them, words like Linux, system administration, programming, open source, Red Hat. All of these terms are essentially really great terms to add to your resume. And that can be done for any course. I asked a student what was another course they were in, and a student offered up the idea that they were in a networking course. So I said terms like developing a network map and developing system design, network design, all valuable skills that can be applied to a resume continually. And I reminded them that one of the most important parts of doing this is the fact that they need to realize that it's a continual process and it will take more time to do this later. And if they see a job application or a job opportunity, if they see a job this is part of it, is that if they see a job opportunity that they need to take, the most important part about this is that if they see a job opportunity that they need to apply for, that they're thinking that they're ready for that opportunity. They don't need to go back and update their resume for the courses and the training that they've done if that opportunity, they've already taken the course. So I'm telling them this so that they save time. If they see a position that they're interested in, that they're prepared for it because they've taken the time to update their resume to their most recent level of skills that they've developed, so that they can be actionable in their choices. I think another important step with this is that they not only are able to take an action with a resume or their LinkedIn profile, but they have thought about their resume is ready. They need to think about applicant tracking systems and how applicant tracking systems are going to be scanning their resumes, looking for keywords related to the jobs they're searching for or opportunities. They need to be actively thinking about how they're preparing their resume for applicant tracking systems. So if you're an entry-level IT person and you're thinking about applying for jobs and you're in a degree program or you're making courses or certifications, you need to be adding continually these updates so that your resume is updated, so that when you see a job or an opportunity, you're able to jump on that opportunity and hopefully get an interview. That was another thing I spoke to those students about tonight. Was I said to them, are you really applying to get the job? And a great response from them was, no, we're applying to get the interview. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear them say. And if you're applying to try to get the opportunity to get the interview, to then showcase and show what you... And we had actually spoken a little bit about the interviewing process tonight, just in the fact that I had recently done some interviews, and I wanted to explain to my students that not only was I going to share with them the questions from an IT interview that I put together that are scenario-based questions, I also wanted them to realize that it's really important that the preparation for these interviews, I wanted them to realize that in the preparation for these interviews, it's really important for them to realize that they're individuals, that they bring to the table is ultimately going to be evaluated as a single case. Not every person has the same skill set. Not every person brings the exact same things to the table. And a lot of times a job description can be written in very plain language, and that can be very difficult to then identify the right types of people for a role. I think it's very important that individuals who apply for jobs who are thinking about their skill set in comparison to a job application are fair with themselves in that they're bringing their skill set and their very specific knowledges, experience to the table. And sometimes that's going to be the right fit for a company. Sometimes it's going to be a tougher fit based on what they're really looking for. So it's really important to not get too down, too negative, or too high, or too low in the response to, what comes from a job interview. So to prepare for that, you need to have a strategy for your own approach to applying for jobs. It's not as if you're going to just put your resume out there and magic's going to happen if you're not really trying to showcase and update your experience, who you are, what you bring to the table, and show that as clearly as you can. Often decisions are made based on a person's commitment and development to their resume and cover letter, and also the interview process and showcasing what they know, how they know it, and how are they going to bring those skills to the organization. So just to recap, my conversation with my students tonight as we close up the semester is really to get them reflecting on the skills that they know now in whatever the topic is that they've been working on, and get them to translate those skills into keywords and action statements that can be reflected on their resume, and have them realize that it's this continual process of updating your resume and with these skill sets. You have to be an active participant in the success you want to have. You need to be an active participant in developing your keywords, or choices of keywords, how they translate to skills and how they translate to experiences that you can speak about, whether it's in an interview or your next step. I definitely think that if you do that, you're going to be able to have many more opportunities than if you wait to do it all at once. Hey, I'm done with school now. Let me put my resume together and then go for an opportunity. reflection for tonight. It's really about trying to motivate students to actively take notes and updates to their LinkedIn profile, their resume, and start to think more concretely about the skills they learn and translating that into opportunity. And that's what everybody wants at the end of the day. And you don't want a hesitancy to do that to hold you back. So thanks for checking out the video. I appreciate your time. And hopefully you'll see you again soon. Welcome back to Digital Futures Education. Today I want to go over the top 5 characteristics that I'm looking for in an entry-level IT support person. We're going to go over the top 5 characteristics that at least I'm looking for with an IT support person. The first one is customer service and the ability to understand the issue or the problem that's really happening. When people are thinking about getting into IT, I think one of the first things that they do is they overthink the amount of technical knowledge or certifications or additional technical experiences that are needed to really provide high quality customer service. And any program that you're in that's training you to become an IT specialist or someone who's working on the front lines of IT should include a lot of reminders around the value of good customer service and making the customer happy, and also the prioritization of tasks. So it's important to understand if you're coming from another field that involves customer service, there's a lot of transferability of skills. And this is often the area that people have the biggest opportunity to showcase to an employer in the interview stages in a way that's genuine and can show what they bring to the organization. The ability to write an email, reply properly, be friendly, be open to suggestions, be easy to work with, collaborative, provide support, follow up with people, all tremendously important. And it's my very first, and for me, it's the very first skill that I'm hoping to see. I mean, of course, there are additional and very important skills, but it's the first thing that I need to see in order to feel comfortable that someone's going to be interacting with, whether it's a customer or a client or a teacher or anyone who's looking for tech support. The second biggest skill or skill set that I'm looking for with an IT support technician is the ability to troubleshoot and diagnose a technology problem. And I would add to the backside of this ability to diagnose and troubleshoot the technology problem as also being able to explain the problem to others who are not as savvy with technology. And I combine these two because it really needs to happen in a packaged, streamlined way that if someone is troubleshooting and diagnosing, they can explain the issue, and not only to other technicians, but to other people who they're going to be reporting the problem to. So this would be a really strong sense of the CompTIA troubleshooting methodology. I think it can be a helpful tool set to help someone kind of understand methodologies. Just a technician being able to explain their first steps with diagnosing any type of technology issue, and then providing a solution and testing the solution, and providing the solution and testing the solution, and then also being able to explain and see if it works. Now, there's resilience involved with that, there's customer service involved with that, there's technical knowledges involved with that, depending on the environment, but need to know how to initiate that process. And that's the only way to really learn. So evidence of that can come in the form of a technician working on their own projects at home, explaining scenarios in which they've done their own troubleshooting and they've done their own processes for reviewing an issue and then reporting the issue back and trying to support someone. And a big part of it is also being successful. I think you have to take that into account, especially in an interview process or explaining an issue. Being able to explain how you were successful in solving the problem is incredibly important, more so than anything. What was successful about your solution? And often, I think that gets missed in a lot of IT solutions is it involved a team effort. Someone else gave them additional information. Maybe they had to escalate the ticket to another level to be able to get additional information or access. But if they're willing to explain that, they're explaining also their collaboration skills. So that's really important. Third most important skill or skill set that I'm looking for with an IT technician, I'm going to put technical skills here. I'm going to put certifications. I'm going to put experiences that the person has had shooting, diagnosing different types of technology at different levels. And what I'm looking for here is not only industry certifications, which indicate a knowledge of environments, whether it's a Windows environment, Chromebook environment, network experience, cloud experience, working with servers, could be programming or administrative experience with the command line. It's really important that a person with experience can also translate those experiences or technical knowledges in an interview question. Basically, how did they utilize their technical experience it's a very important piece because many people who work in IT have a lot of different skill sets and have a lot of different ways of interacting and collaborating with each other. So it's important that someone who has a skill set can explain to an interview committee how they utilize their skill set with others. Because if the information stays only with them and doesn't get shared, it doesn't become a bigger part of the knowledge base of the organization around troubleshooting and solving problems. The fourth skill that I'm looking for with an IT technician is the ability to document, the ability and desire, I will say, because some technicians don't desire to do this either. Ability to desire and document, ability, desire to document technology issues in a way that their documentation can help others in the future. And I will piggyback the concept of teamwork and collaboration into this topic because not only is teamwork and collaboration very important, it becomes even more important when you're working on a team to document your solutions for others to see and share the knowledge. Because there is a tendency, and I think most people agree with me on this, and if not, you can drop it in the comments, that IT departments tend to become sometimes they take ownership over their information. And for whatever reason, whether they feel like they're the only one who can solve the problem the right way, they want people to come to them, and only them for that solution. But it's like a holding on to the information. And I think it's really important to keep that information flowing because there's going to eventually be an issue which intersects with the issue that was just solved. So having as much information, whether it's a knowledge base where a specific format of documentation has taken place, that's important. Willingness to share how they document and solve problems. I think that's a really important skill, and some are much more open to it than others, but it's a really important, I think, area because at the end of the day, you want the organization to have a more rich knowledge of how they've solved problems. The fifth skill set that I think is very important is the ability to adapt and grow. And you might think that's a very blanket statement, but having someone with a growth mindset that is open to learning new systems, apply their existing knowledge to a new, more complicated problem, add knowledges, build their resume, and support the best they can because they're going out and acquiring information. And part of that's being thorough, part of that's being detail-orientated, part of that's reading documentation, which is really important. I think the whole fact of reading documentation, just being able to sit and focus and look at the important documentation related to either a piece of hardware or software and see if that's important to an implementation is That's the stuff people need to know, that we're requiring, that we need technicians to be able to look at. There's a reason why the role is important, and it's important because it's trying to provide the best service possible for a technology environment, help users get tasks done, and how do they get tasks done more effectively and basically in ways that helps the organization work more productively. It's about productivity, and so many different types of technology. You need to have someone who's willing to adapt, willing to learn, willing to grow and acquire skills, whether it's a CompTIA certification, a Cisco certification, cybersecurity, or any other type of security certification, a networking certification. How are they, and how does that support the organization? Those are the easiest people to promote. Those are the easiest people to feel confident in. So you definitely want to be an adaptable IT technician, and you want to be one who's got a growth mindset, open to adapting and learning new things. So those are my 5 biggest things that I'm looking for in an IT support person. I generally will design questions around trying to get people to spell those characteristics out to me, whether it's a scenario-based question in which the candidate is trying to explain, has an opportunity to explain how they would troubleshoot a problem, an opportunity for them to explain how they solved a problem, also how their interpersonal skills were with communicating and collaborating, and how their documentation skills are, and whether or not they see the value. It's very